with no delay. Chalice and camera owning the day. Adam drops gems, he's breaking it down. How the buy side spins, dollars around. Garrett steps up with that data finesse. Selling it right, no room for a guess. The mics are hot, the beats hit hard. Fans throw their hands high in the yard. Deals and impressions like a verbal sprint. Breaking it down.
In the ad tech justice system, the people are represented by two separate yet equally important groups, the sell side and the buy side. These are their stories. And here's Adam and Gareth.
Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of Ad Talk, where Adam and I are going to regale you with tales of all of the things that make us love and not love how all of you discuss our wonderful industry in ad tech. And we are so happy to have you here today. Adam, good to see you, buddy.
So excited. People on the line in Tel Aviv and Dubai. Ad Tech Ad Talk is bringing peace in the Middle East. Literally.
Wow.
In the show.
Oh, Dubai's new. That wasn't there last week. That's wonderful.
Well, it's a huge week in ad tech news. I hope somebody asks us about it. This isn't a show where we just wrap up, talk about, give our takes on news events. We answer questions here. So we're not going to talk about any news unless or until somebody asks about it. But I will ask one to you because of what people seem to think is the big news of Microsoft shutting down AppNexus DSP. I know you worked there as a young man, and I'd like to hear the craziest story from your young man year at AppNexus 2011.
Yeah. So AppNexus was my first job out of college. I was the second new business team, or like one of two new business people. And it was an amazing place to have a first job, but also like kind of set me straight where, so I'm 2 weeks in. I'm hired by someone named Lauren Nemeth. Lauren, who is wonderful and just like an astoundingly competent person, but also anyone who knows her knows that she's a force of nature wherever she is. Like Lauren is, she's when she's in the room. So I'm 2 weeks in. I'm 22 years old, fresh out of college, don't know anything about ad tech, zero. The AppNexus website at this point, I'm pretty sure still talked about cloud computing because Brian, in order to skirt his non-compete with Yahoo for the RMX sale, AppNexus for a couple years was a cloud computing company that just sold cloud servers that happened to be really optimized for ad tech, which is really 4D chess indeed. And so I'm like 2 weeks into training. And so, I'm like, it's my first job and I'm expected to train myself. And I'm meeting with people, I'm reading the wiki, I'm doing whatever I can. And Lauren calls me to a conference room and she sends me up to the board. And she goes, "Okay, Gareth, tell me what you know."
How many people are in this room?
Just me and Lauren. Just the two of us. But this story happened again in groups of people to other people. But so I'm sitting there. I'm like, how much ad tech can you learn with 2 weeks with unguided, just looking at the specs of basically a DSP SSP ad server combination system? I'm doing whatever I can, obviously struggling up there. And so I finish whatever little terrible diagram I'm sure that I drew. And Lauren just looks at me and just straight face just goes, "That's not good." And I'm like, "Oh, well, so this is what we're dealing with here. This is my job." And needless to say, from there, I received a ad tech education because AppNexus at the time, by virtue of how the system was built, is an ad tech education. It did and integrated with every category of company that exists in ad tech today. And you mentioned Tel Aviv. It was also really fun as a first job because my job at the time, and on directive directly from Brian, was to kill Right Media in precisely those terms.
Yeah.
And that meant that I spent all day, every day talking to ad networks in Tel Aviv and Buenos Aires, because those were the primary users of Right Media, to
Wow.
buy, sell, arbitrage impressions from one
Well,
another.
let's just clarify. When former AppNexus CEO Brian O'Kelly says kill, he means in the chess sense, right? To capture, to win the game. He's not talking about dropping bombs or violence of any sort, is he?
I mean, the extent to which violence can be imposed from one software system to another. Um, we
Hmm.
talked internally about tipping it. And this is actually a fascinating concept, and then we'll get on to things that people will probably find more interesting. But the notion of tipping an ad ecosystem is that this is before real-time bidding is sold everywhere, right? This is like a pre-RTB days. I'm convincing people to do real-time bidding, that
Right.
real-time
You're
bidding
not
is a
just
good
selling
thing.
the platform, you're selling the category. People didn't know what it
Exactly.
was.
This is like I'm telling people why real-time bidding is
Right.
good, why open RTB interoperability between systems is good, because it wasn't something Right Media did. Right Media was a contained ecosystem of buyers and sellers that had the implementation was actually very clever, but it meant that being a closed ecosystem, there's a certain amount of demand and a certain amount of supply. And the thesis was, okay, at some point, if we can get enough demand out or enough supply out, the rest of it will leak out because the whole system will tip. And, and we always talked about tipping Right Media, and we did, by the way. Like we succeeded. It
What do you mean?
was
Oh, I see. Like a network effect, like or snowball effect, right? If you take enough of their supply, then the demand will come too because the supply is there. It causes more supply
exactly.
to come and more
Bingo.
demand. And
Virtuous cycle for us, where once we can siphon enough out, the rest will follow because the entire liquidity of the system goes out of whack and people have to chase the proper liquidity, the proper performance. Um, yeah, and we did it. I mean, it was
that
amazing.
was intense competition in those days, and a lot of those guys are still competing. So pretty interesting to get the background, but I'm also kind of tired about hearing about the first generation of ad tech.
I agree. It's like, it's a good old day story, but at the end of the day, man, it was awful. Um, I the first company I tried to start after leaving AppNexus was a buy-side company, and I set up post-click performance campaigns in AppNexus, and I bought tens of thousands of clicks with no conversions. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, what have I been doing with my life? Like, like what is this?" And this is to say, I am 99% sure that would not happen in the ecosystem today. Like, it's unfathomably cleaner today than it's ever been. It's so slick today. It's so nice. Like if I go set up a campaign targeting index exchange, I'm probably getting real publishers. Like that's
Oh yeah,
amazing. Um, that
yeah, I
was
could
not a thing 10 years ago.
good, can confirm. Yeah, that it's better today. Let's make sure we pour one out for AppNexus. And of course, this though the story I think is not as big a deal as people are making it. It's bad when people get fired. It's sad, and there's nothing funny about people having to look for another job and getting suddenly laid off. So
Yeah.
that said, Microsoft's announcement about it was comically vague. But did you did you read the document and have any thoughts on it?
Um, so I still don't know what
It's
this
about AI. They
mysterious
said this is
other,
because
I
of
know they said
AI.
it's AI and we're migrating to our other Microsoft advertising product that I am unfamiliar with. Like,
Bing Ads. The other one is
is
Bing Ads.
Is it
And they
just Bing Ads? Is that all it is? They called it something else. It was like
Microsoft
Microsoft.
advertising platform. It's just a
Yeah,
rename Bing Ads. And it has like just like Google has the search network that became GDN, it has the Bing network, which became a display network, and it's mostly Yahoo and AOL.
interesting. So
That's
is there an actual GDN style UI that you can
yeah.
run campaigns in
Yeah, there
with
has been.
banners?
Yeah, there has been since Bing came out.
That's wild. I've never heard of someone using
So maybe
it.
now it will bid into the Xender SSP, whatever, what do they call it now?
Invest.
Yeah,
Or no, not invest. Sorry, monetize. Monetize is the
monetize. Maybe
SSP.
now it'll
Invest was
bid
the
into
DSP.
monetize and
Yeah.
become essentially Microsoft's DSP. but they don't, and like maybe the thought was they don't need two. But anyway, I don't know. I thought it was funny that they made the announcement about AI. It's certainly not clear why they did that or what they're actually thinking. The whole
It's so
thing
vague.
is small for Microsoft. It's only like, they bought it
That's
for $1 billion, which is nothing for Microsoft. They make that in about 20 minutes. And yeah, the decision probably might not have been made even at that high a level. The company's so big.
yeah.
Was
Yeah,
another
that's
possibility. Oh yeah, my favorite possibility, supplied by a guy named Ari on Twitter, don't know him, was that maybe Microsoft is getting ready to bid for AdX.
ooh, I like that thesis,
Yeah.
but why turn off your DSP? I
Because
would turn off my SSP. Like,
no, because he was be anticipating that DOJ's concern would be that Microsoft would have buy side, sell side
oh,
control.
buy and sell. Yeah, no, that's definitely part of the remedies is the concept of buy and sell in one place.
So if they say Microsoft is only SSP side and they own monetize and AdX, then maybe that'll fly. What do you
That's an
think? What do you
interesting
think of
thesis.
Microsoft buying AdX? Are you worried about that?
No, I actually think it will be a monumental failure if they do. Um,
Why?
because
Whoa.
like, and this gets lost on lots of people. The only reason AdX has the purchase that it does is AdWords, man.
Yeah.
Like that AdWords demand is all people really want. Without the AdWords demand and without DV360 disproportionately prioritizing spend to AdX, there's not really anything special there. It's a big old ad exchange, and there are lots of big old ad exchanges. That's is like maybe you gain a footprint on lots of publishers, but now you have to disentangle that from DFP, and that's gonna take a while. Like because AdX did away with AdX tags. That's not a thing. It used to be you got an AdX tag, and that was how you implemented AdX. But now AdX is exclusively implemented via DFP. The same thing we talked about last week, by the way, which Magnite merging with SpringServe. Now you
Yeah.
get Magnite Ad Exchange demand via a SpringServe tag. Google did that. You get AdX demand via a DFP Google Ad Manager tag. So there is no disembodied AdX. You would have
Oh my
to,
God. What did,
yeah.
yeah, what do they buy? Right. If they buy it, what do they buy?
What do they buy? Like, are they going to ask all those publishers to retag? That won't happen. Like, that's not a thing, or the attrition will be crazy. I don't know what's worth buying there, and you don't get AdWords, of course. So you get an ad exchange that you have to re-implement on all the publishers that has the same DSPs that Monetize does.
Yeah.
That
Well,
DV360 by law cannot prioritize spend to. Um, I don't know, man. I
so
wouldn't buy it.
what about Amazon? Would AdX also be worthless if Amazon bought it?
I think AdX without the DFP footprint or the GAM. Sorry, I keep saying DFP. DFP is double click for publishers. It was the old name for GAM. So AdX without the GAM footprint and without AdWords is worth the value of legacy DSP integrations. That's what it's worth. I can't imagine anyone buying it. Like I don't know why you would.
It's tech on the pub pages, right? At least GAM is tech on the pub pages.
Yes. So if you get that integration, but I don't think that we're talking, I mean, unless they sell GAM and AdX as a bundle to someone, which kind of defeats the purpose. Like I don't know how you do the tech integrations with the publishers because the thing that's tag on page on publishers is GAM, not AdX.
Right. So what? Okay. So it must be the GAM purchase that you're more interested in. What DOJ
That's
wants
an interesting
is
one.
for there to be competition around monetizing websites.
Yeah.
And to monetize websites effectively, you have to be implemented on the website, right? You have to have
Yeah.
some ability to weigh the different monetization sources, demand sources. So you're saying AdX has none of that. They have no real integrations, and GAM has all of it, right?
It does because they merged the two products. I remember when they did this, it was actually a pain. And yeah, they've been performing all sorts of shenanigans in the back about how GAM and AdX which used to be very discreetly different things, have been becoming progressively less and less discrete over the past 7 years, I'd say.
Yeah, Google was anticipating a breakup and trying to create this difficulty, right? Where if they're forced to divest the AdX, maybe no one would buy it because it doesn't, as you're saying, it doesn't really get you anything.
Yeah, I think it's there. And even if, and where it gets really juicy is even if you have to divest GAM, right? So let's say GAM has a new owner. I remember we used to talk about buying GAM at Magnite. This was a Tom Kershaw special, who I still hold dear in my heart. He was the first one to go, we should make a pitch for GAM. We should make a play for it at Magnite. And this was 6 years ago. I think they would consider selling it. And everyone was like, pish posh, Tom, you're nuts. And and he was like, no, I think that they would sell it. I think that they would. Which is really interesting. And history's just kind of proven him right. That I think that GAM without the AdWords tying is also like a very questionable asset. Because 50% of the people who use it don't actually need it as a system. All they want is AdWords, so they have to use it. Yeah. So like all of those people are just going to shut it off because they don't want it. It makes everything slower and they have to pay for it. It's crazy. They don't need it at all.
And then we had a relevant question.
All right.
Go ahead. I can't, my vision isn't up for it right now, but read it out.
Oh, wait, it's not on my screen. Let me,
I got you guys. Does the DV lawsuit against Adalytics serve the best interests of publishers and advertisers by ensuring data accuracy, or does it hinder their ability to gain independent insights into performance?
Does it hinder who's? I don't want to talk about this lawsuit, so I'm going to bring in an anonymous person to discuss it. This is someone else.
We don't want to be deposed.
I don't want to be sued by DoubleVerify. They seem somewhat litigious. So anonymous person's opinion. What was the last part of the question, Marley? Like, does it hinder whose ability?
Publishers and advertisers by ensuring data accuracy.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, that poor publishers and advertisers. Before we get to those sorry bastards and their incredible difficulty getting a seal of approval on their non-fraudulent impressions, let's get to this complaint. I actually read the entire complaint. It's like a hobby of mine since Google Antitrust became my second job, is to actually read legal documents. They're public and they have to have all the facts. They're quite often funny and entertaining or otherwise weird. And this DV one, DoubleVerify one, is super duper weird. It's a chest beating document. It's a lot like the statement they put out of like how great they are. It's like 30 pages and about 20 of them is like about how great DoubleVerify is, like a long ass commercial for DoubleVerify. What you're supposed to do when you're filing a complaint is talk about how you were damaged, right? The law in America is that if there's a defamation complaint, you have to prove that it harmed you and that the person meant to harm you, right? And one important, and American courts give a lot of leeway on this intent thing. The ways they give leeway is like if it's news, you're allowed to say it, right? And if you're wrong by accident, that's not defamation either. So they should have spent a lot of time in the 30 pages making a case that Adalytics knew this wasn't true and that they were acting maliciously. And they just don't do that at all. Oh, and that they were damaged. They don't do that either. At the end, they say that their damages are that they had to respond. And that response cost them money that they should be reimbursed for. And maybe the court should also penalize them. So they didn't even say they lost clients over this, which is it's just so weird. Like, why would you? So it looks to this anonymous person who is not Adam Heimlich that this is for show, that like they want to show their investors that they're fighting back and they didn't do it, and that Adalytics is a rogue operation that they can smash like a bug. I don't know if that will work out, but I'll just say from my reading, and this anonymous person is not a lawyer, but someone who reads complaints for fun, it doesn't seem like a serious case. There's no real it's not a real complaint. They don't have the factors that you need to prove a defamation case in the complaint. And I'll just say so yeah, it's definitely not good for the environment. I think Adalytics has done a great job starting conversations, they're just stirring the pot in an area of our ecosystem that's been non-transparent. Like, everyone pays these companies, but no one knows exactly what they do. They're very hard to hold to account. They're very slippery if you talk about what exactly they found or what they're reimbursing you for. Their incentives are weird, because if they got rid of the fraud, you would stop paying them. So it's all like a weird part of the ecosystem that needs a bit of an enema. And Christophus came along and, got the water flowing, so to speak. So I think it's really a good thing, and that it could only lead to better outcomes. But trying to silence him with a lawsuit, it's just such a shame. It's gonna cost him, I don't know, so upwards of $100,000 defending himself from this one and the one from Colossus. And it's cool that he's a tough guy. He was brave to put out these reports in the first place, and he's brave to be responding to them. But in the process of researching this, I found there's another case against DoubleVerify CEO Mark Zagorski that's gotten zero coverage. And I invite my friends in ad tech journalism to look at this case. It's called Martin versus Zagorski, and it's about Outbrain. Zagorski, the CEO of DoubleVerify, is also on the board of Outbrain for some reason. And there's this guy named Martin. His last name's Martin. I forgot his first name. He was a whistleblower against something that Outbrain did, and he said they retaliated against him by like hacking his phone. His complaint is like 100 pages, and it lays out a very detailed conspiracy with diagrams of the conspiracy. It goes on and on about how private equity and there's like FBX is involved somewhere, and all these investors have conspired around Outbrain and DoubleVerify. It's just a crazy thing. I don't know if it's true at all, but it's a public doc and it's within our ecosystem. So I think it should be covered and people should read it. Zagorski came to the head of DoubleVerify. They don't like this story out, and it's not funny. But I'm not even going to talk about it. Like, the way Zagorski became the CEO of DoubleVerify was after a scandal that is a part of this complaint. If you know about the scandal, then you know that's a crazy story. And to have this in the complaint and attached to a wider conspiracy, it's fun reading, and I'm just surprised no one covered it.
This is wild. I have two thoughts. One is I completely agree with you on the chilling effect here. I just don't buy it. And in the security world, saying if I expose my methods, then the bad guys are going to figure out ways to get around me, it's just not a thing. Like, it's not a defense. The only person who I've ever seen use that defense is when Google is taking money away from publishers and doesn't want to tell them why. They're like, hey, 15% of your revenue is gone this month. If we told you which 15% or why, we think you would try and reverse engineer it. So, sucks to be you. They do that every month, by the way. And I don't buy it. And I think that the whole ecosystem of anti-fraud needs to become more collaborative and more open. And even the notion that, like, we buy these impressions and then we just try and disappear them. We're introducing horrible noise to the system, even if that is the case. Like, you can't disappear them from the entire supply chain. That doesn't work. Someone thinks they're getting paid for that, and like, that's
a really confusing thing in the complaint. The complaint says over and over that when Christoph observed that they served an ad to a known bot, that impression was removed from billable counts. And like, I've been reading this thing going, what billable counts?
Yeah. There's only one place they can remove it from. It's the DSP. And the DSP is just going to tell the exchanges, sucks to be you. And then the exchanges are going to tell the publishers, sucks to be you. Sorry, trust us. Like, in no other industry would that be acceptable. Like, you would require proof. I am requiring proof that this is what was removed.
But again, it's like the bill. Even if it's the DSP billable count, it's like, and my data fee, and my ad serving fee, and my
good point. Oh my gosh, So interesting. Wait, that's
Yeah.
crazy. All of the tack-on fees that
Yeah.
go to vendors, do those disappear too? If they do, like how? I like that.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
just says billable counts over and over. And it's like, my double verified billable counts. It's like, why would you bill me when there's not fraud? But they do that. They bill on every single impression, right? So
One
maybe
more pile on. Also, what methodology are you hiding when it's a publicly declared bot? Like when it's like a publicly declared, I am a bot. Just don't serve the ad to it. Everyone's gonna know how you detected it was a bot. It said it was a bot. Like,
yeah. Well, yeah.
oh gosh.
I don't have my disguise on, so I'm not gonna talk
Yeah,
about.
I'm not opining anymore.
What was the question, Marley?
The original question?
Oh,
No,
there
Oh,
was
from
a
algorithm.
Oh,
yeah. Algorithm just said, "Welcome back, Adam, and thank you, Mr. Anonymous contributor, for the commentary."
oh, yeah. Is that algorithm or Al Gore?
Algorithm.
Algorithm.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Well, there's no question. Let's point out that algorithm is named after a guy named Algorithm. It was a Persian mathematician whose name was something like Al-Khwarizmi that got anglicized or Latinized into algorithm. So, fun
Interesting.
fact. Fun fact.
Fun fact.
Thought it was the
Well,
vice president dancing.
Oh my gosh.
During the Clinton era.
Oh my goodness. Well, if you don't have any other questions, I have a question for Adam.
Okay, do it.
What's the difference between an agent and a regression analysis? And
Oh,
why
no.
does everyone seem confused about
Oh
this?
no. The backlash against AI is so it's so bad. People hate AI now. The marketplace is, as I said last week, flooded with phonies. Everyone's an AI professor, an AI teacher. Get uh, LinkedIn, which used to be my favorite place to spend a little spare time, is utterly polluted with bullshit posts about agents. So you really want, Gareth, I think you know the answer to the question, right? A
I think
regression.
I do, but I'm uncertain because my mind has been so polluted with whatever's going on. It's made me like think I'm taking like loony pills, like Will Ferrell, and I'm like, maybe I don't understand this because everyone keeps talking about agentic optimization, and I like it's just driving me crazy. So please.
Yeah, when people talk like that, I say, can we just say robots? You mean robot, right? And the agent is a robot, right? And be like, no. I can't remember what the technical difference is, why it's not a robot, but it's if it's adding robotics to predictive analytics. That's what they mean by agent. But AI already had that definition. The difference between predictive analytics and AI was that it does something. So to go from AI to agents again is just adding the same thing again. So here's the easy way to think about it. Or I say the useful way to think about what we're going through. All right. When you were a kid, I think you're old enough, Gareth. You went to the library. You had a paper. You had to go to the library.
Good.
Right?
That's true.
Say you were doing a paper on Sweden. You would have to go to the library and find books about Sweden and then write your paper. It would maybe take all day or a couple of days. Right? Then some point, 2000 or 1999, 98 or so, Google comes out their search on the internet, and you could type Sweden and get all the documents about Sweden ranked in order, right? This is an example of predictive analytics, right? And a bit of robotics, right? Retrieving the documents and ranking the documents. Retrieving the documents is simple robotics. Ranking the documents is predictive analytics, right? The reason Google got so big is their predictive analytics were better than everyone else's. The ranking of documents was better. They had the most search results. The reason their ranking was better is because they used more data. They used link data. That's what Larry Page's paper on PageRank that became the foundation of Google was about. This is better signal, better ranking, predictive analytics resulting in a better search engine. All right. And our experience is, wow, all the documents are right here. Okay. So now your time at the research on Sweden goes from 2 days to maybe 2 hours. Go through all the documents, write it up. Today, you could say, give me a summary of the nation of Sweden, and you'll get the whole paper, right? Give me a one-page summary of everything I need to know about Sweden right? And you'll just get the whole paper. So what it's doing now is document retrieval and summarization. So instead of going document by document and ranking them, It's pulling everything out of all the documents and summarizing them. Now, the big technical difference that allows this to happen is large language models, that all the text on all those documents are converted into numbers, so you could do predictive analytics on them, right? This technology was invented so you could do translation, right? You can't do translation unless the machine has some way to know what words mean and some way to learn. So they modeled languages and numbers with things called vectors that quantify how close words are to each other in all their various meanings, embed those in the language, right? And then all the documents could be analyzed at once. And the summarization feature is the robotic part. I say, all right, so I've taken all the language, and now I could say, what are the most important words in this, right? The feedback loop is based on what people consider a good summary. They train it over and over on what people consider a good summary till they could take all that language and instead of ranking it, just give you the cream of the facts out of all the documents in the world. So now your time to write that paper on Sweden has gone to like 2 minutes or 2 seconds, really. You could say, give me a 1-page summary of facts about the nation of Sweden, and you're done. So it's about 10 seconds. And the implication is that the entire world of documents is now 2 seconds away, right? Not in a document by document way, but in a summarization way. So that's the important thing. Like everyone in ad tech, like that's where you should focus, because what it means is if you have a business that has a wiki and a bunch of data sitting around, you no longer have to have the problem that some people know this information and some don't, right? Everyone could be 2 seconds away from it. And that's a huge difference to a big business, right? That has to do things like put prices on all the products and decide how many items to ship to every location, right? Those are 2 huge decisions that are made more or less arbitrarily because the people don't have complete information at the time of the decision. So the big difference in AI is now they do. Supply chain and pricing can be perfected, and Amazon has proved this. They've done it, right? So
we have a question, but I have questions for you about this.
Okay.
Blue Hawk.
Beyond that, I think a lot of the agent talk is distraction from what I just said, because a lot of people are obsessed with the idea of computers replacing people. And I said, that's not a very useful thing to, I mean, it could be philosophical or to spend your time on. But if you're working business and you're working for business value, what you should be looking at are the things the machines do that people can't.
Yeah.
They can't price things. They can't decide how to ship things.
What drives me crazy with this too is like when I'm optimizing a campaign, the predictive analytics part was supposed to really be most of it. Like the parts outside of the predictive analytics part were supposed to be totally mundane. I was supposed to be able to turn on a campaign and have it just drive outcomes. Like that's the promise of really good predictive analytics, because it is sorting and evaluating and bidding.
Yeah.
So the agentic part, like, this is where I get confused. I get it for contextualization. Like, sure, that makes sense to me. But like, an agentic ad operations person, is that what we're really talking about here? Like,
yeah, campaign setup and ad ops, like that stuff being.
That's just that is I have a hammer, so everything is a nail, because that is not a problem. Like I don't know who's having problems setting up campaigns, but like that is, I mean, I guess curation solves the same thing. But
it'll come out in the valuations, right? Like my favorite ad tech story of the week is Greenbids got acquired. You know who Greenbids is?
I didn't actually. I'd seen the name, but I have no clue what they do. I assumed they do something with we reduce emissions somehow.
No, they're a French competitor to China.
Uh-oh.
So they're a competitor to Chalice and their countrymen Cybids. They were only, oh no, I had internet connection problems. Am I still live?
You're back now.
All right, what's the last thing you heard?
A French competitor to Chalice.
And their countrymen Cybids, the French optimization. Two custom algorithm companies in France, imagine that. Now both acquired. So they got acquired by Perion, an Israeli company based in Tel Aviv. And they got about like 50 million or something after I think they were founded in 2023.
That's crazy.
So you see, so high valuation for the predictive analytics, the bidding piece, and we'll see what kind of valuations we get for the agentic piece as soon as one of those gets scooped up. All right.
We have a couple questions from the chat. You want me to read out the first one, guys?
Yeah,
Let's
man,
answer them.
We have
that
one
is-
from Bluehawk and Talk to Me. Let's do Bluehawk's question first. Are current data privacy regulations striking the right balance between consumer privacy rights and the needs of the advertising industry? And how can ad tech companies innovate within these constraints?
Man. I have to put my disguise back on.
Yeah, you're talking to some privacy conspiracy theorists. I just want to make this. I want to prepare this person for the
Poor
answers that they're
Bluehawk.
going to get. Um,
Yeah.
what you want to go first?
I'm
Anonymous?
I'll make it brief. American regulators have a slogan: "Regulate the harm," which means if you pass a law, it should be focused on the harm that's being done, should eliminate that harm, and don't try to control the whole market. Right? The guy who explained this to me was the head of TLC, and that was the taxi and limousine corporate company, taxi and limousine commission in New York City. And he said, what's important about taxis, and this is before Uber, is that you could go out in the street and hold up your hand and get a taxi. That means there's enough, the supply and demand are balanced enough that the system is working. And if you overregulate it, you could completely screw that up. So you have to be careful and only regulate harms. Don't do things that'll make people not drive taxis or not call taxis enough that you'll cause the market to tip, as Gareth pointed out earlier. So I've yet to see real harm from an ad tech privacy violation. I mean, yeah, that's it. I'll leave it there. Like the things like there are things that are clearly harmful, location tracking of people. I don't mean that. Those should be regular. Those are already illegal. But laws like GDPR that seem to have been made without clear evidence of harm, to me, is government overreach. And I'm not someone who talks a lot about government overreach. Go ahead, Gareth.
I mean, that is a lovely legal exploration of that. I will take it a step further with my conspiracy theorist hat on, which is if there's no harm, where are these regulations coming from?
Yeah.
And it is known by every economist that exists is that regulations benefit incumbents. They inherently benefit companies that are big because the cost of the regulations and the cost of dealing with the regulations is something that's much more easily swallowed by a very large company than a very small one. So, full conspiracy theorist, fascinating that as the monopoly case has heated up aggressively on Google, Google has totally backed off of backing privacy. And I don't think it's a coincidence. I think that they know that privacy stuff benefits them the same way that it benefits Facebook. Like if third-party cookies are not allowed and Facebook has a platform of people who are logged in, how much more valuable is Facebook? So much more valuable. It's the place you have to go. So in short, I think that there's no harm. I totally agree with Adam. I got into a discussion on this with someone in Switzerland, which is always fun. The Schweiz love to talk about privacy. They love privacy over there. And like my last company, we had a
Yeah,
tangent
and they'll
about
drop
war in
Holocaust
Switzerland.
on you, right? They'll drop some Holocaust knowledge on you. It's like it's a conversation ender.
No, numbered bank accounts. That was how they did it. Bank
Yeah,
account has a number. We don't want to know anything else. Um,
yeah.
but yes, so I think that you know, what we're going to see is unfortunately a contraction in a lot of poor companies who really spun up for third party cookie deprecation, which has already happened. I know companies that have shut down, and that's sad. Like Adam said earlier, anytime a company shuts down, it's sad. And there's the value that was placed on all these supposedly privacy friendly fingerprinting companies, and like privacy solutions is going to suffer. Um, and yeah, it's just it's one of those things where I I don't think there's a lot of harm in it. I'm very pro good advertising.
I remember my costs of developing my privacy policy when I started Chalice were a little over 50K. Did you go through something like that?
Yeah. Oh, it's huge.
Yeah.
I handled with the lawyers more aggressively than you did, but it still cost me five figures. Um, just
Yeah.
to have a privacy compliant contract that someone who is well read on GDPR has to look at. And then I go in there and I debate the meaning of privacy and GDPR with our lawyer because I have to. Where it's like, oh, we got to know for every field, we need to know like everything that's going on. It's tough, man.
expensive. All
Yeah.
right, let's keep them coming.
All right. Our next question is from Talk to Me. He wants to know, or they want to know, what kind of work is being done to counter the bias in AI? I've heard about this often, but I'm curious as to what the counter is. Think of multicultural advertising as an example, please.
Whose AI are we talking about? This is, we got to get into ownership, right? Data. Like, I think there's a lot of noise in AI is sort of designed to distract you from the question of who owns this AI, who does it work for, and what was it trained on? What data was it trained on? So the easy analogy is dogs, right? If it's my dog and I trained it, that dog's not going to be dangerous to me. If it's your dog and you trained it, maybe it is. Maybe your dog was trained to be racist. Maybe it was accidentally trained to be racist. You know, a lot of people of color are justifiably afraid of dogs in New York City because there's a lot of fucking racist dogs, right? This is a reality of nature, right? We're talking about that's now being brought into the technological world. So I think you got to ask the same questions you would ask. Is this thing friendly? Who trained it? How and why? What was it exposed to in its training period? These are all questions we need to ask. Marley, I'm looking at your face. You look upset. You look moved, but
No, yeah, I appreciated the analogy there. I thought that was pretty good.
all right. So round of applause, please, Maldo. Yeah, so there's no other way. We have to consider who owns it, who trained it, what did they train it on, and what were their incentives? That's another one. So if they're not saying, it's probably biased. If you can't audit it, it's almost definitely biased. There's one good law around this, the Fair Lending Act. Fair Lending Act is against redlining, which is a practice in America where there are certain zip codes or blocks even where you couldn't get a loan. And it was done through demographic analysis to say there's too many minorities in this block, so we're not going to approve loans coming from this zip code or zip +4 or whatever. So that's illegal now, redlining. And the Fair Lending Act, the law that makes redlining illegal, includes now provisions around AI that says if you use AI to predict who gets approved for a loan, you have to prove not only that it's that your AI is unbiased in intent, but you have to prove that it's unbiased in effect, right? You actually have to prove, and you could be audited by the government to prove that it's offering loans in all kinds of neighborhoods, right? As long as people meet the criteria. And when we talk to banks, they're like, we can't have any geo data in our, right? Because we're so worried about Fair Lending Act that there's no geo data, so there's no risk of our algorithm appearing to redline. And we say, like, we can audit it so that it doesn't. We could just keep balancing it until it's fair. But they're afraid, and they're, like the questioner, unaware that there's a world where AI is carefully trained and debiased, right? So hopefully in the future we'll have more competition in AI, and we'll hear more about efforts to debias and otherwise, make algorithms that are perhaps fair in their intent, or maybe not fair in their intent, but that the important thing is that they're unbiased in their effects. Right on at that time. Their outputs. All right. Let's go again.
No questions in the queue right now.
All right. Gareth, I have a question for you. I've got talked about my company a lot. What does Gamera do? When was Gamera founded? And let's hear about the company and its offering.
I appreciate that. Yes. So Gamera, as you can see, is named after a kaiju, which is a Godzilla monster in Japan. Gamera was founded when I left Magnite, and ergo left my job as the chair of PBJS about 3 years ago, and it's undergone an evolution. So it was founded as an LTV analysis tool for media companies, which
Publishers,
which in abstraction makes a lot of sense. Like the goal of that was always to help publishers become more effective advertisers And any effective advertiser knows the value of an additional customer, right? Like that's core in any business that sells things. If I get someone to start buying my products, how much will they buy over their lifetime? Therefore, here is how I can invest in getting
Wait, Gareth. You're saying that every time I go to my favorite website, they sell the ads that showed to me as if it was my first time there?
Yes. Oh, I have no
What?
idea. There's no model whatsoever for here is how much money this user has made us over their lifetime. Not a thing. Nobody does it.
What
Yeah.
about my interest over the years and how they're changing?
So they will track interests, but completely divorced from value.
Yeah.
And that is actually a wild mistake because it means that all of the decisions that media companies make are made on signals that don't correlate to value. They maybe loosely correlate to value, but we see in our data all the time. Like 20% of users generally generate most of the money for companies, which like the 80-20 rule applies everywhere in the world. And they should be catering to those 20% and maximizing them. And they don't. And also when they're looking for new people to read their publication, that's the profile they should be looking for. That's their ICP. It should be that top 20% of users who either come back all the time or are tremendously valuable to advertisers or any number of things that drive the fact that they're the top 20%. But yeah, people don't really do that. Like not a thing. It's because it's very hard to do. The user systems and the categorization systems are very separate from the revenue systems. That's why this has been so hard historically. I'll pause there. I see you have bated breath.
Let's do the question, then I'm going to ask you another thing about Gamera.
Okay, I have the second half of Gamer Up, so we'll do this.
Yeah.
We have a two-part question from Patrick with a follow-up from Ali. Let me read the two parts from Patrick first, and then we'll do Ali after. Patrick asks, do you see AI buying agents continuing to interact with the existing API infrastructure of RTB, or do you see that structure itself also changing? And the second part is, for example, is MSFT's forthcoming buyer's agent really just a new front end for Xandr?
Yeah, that's too specific, too much. So I don't think the API infrastructure is the infrastructure of the future. You got to watch last week's episode and the question about containerization to hear what I do think. I think we think is the future, right? Containerized agents, not working through the APIs. The APIs are too cumbersome for something as smart as a buying agent. And what was the second? Oh yeah, is that what Microsoft's? I have no idea what Microsoft's doing. It'll probably be a year before we know what this move means.
Wait, so I have a question. All right, this gets to the heart of it earlier. I'm glad this person asked this question. When we talk about the per ad request decisions that are made, like the valuation decisions that are made in that moment, is that agentic? Or is that predictive analytics?
It's agentic if it places the bid. Yeah.
So it's an agent that's actually bidding. So an agent is consulting the predictive analytics and then placing the bid.
Yep.
So from that perspective, haven't all well, that's why you shied away from agentic earlier, is because it's always worked that way. We've had bidding custom algorithms for a long time. Like that's been a thing for a while.
Even the platform algorithms are AI.
Right. So this is a fascinating distinction because this agentic thing is not a new thing from that perspective. There has always been something that has to consult the predictive analytics data set and formulate and place the bid. That has always been a thing. That service on top of the data has been there for a long time. Therefore, anything that's coming out now is not new if it does that. Thank you. This makes sense to me now. This is better.
Is the exciting part. And it's like, now we're going to have ad ops robots. So, well, that's great. That'll save some time. But fucking bidding robots.
Yeah. Like they've been there forever. Everyone seems so excited about like agentic things. And I'm like, whoa, custom bidding's been there forever. So are all of you this excited about ad ops robots? Because I'm not like that's not exciting to me in the least. Like this is
Very
not
confusing.
a not an expensive
I go back to traditional media, and so I could say what it was like when tech started to come in to advertising. And the way I would say it, Gareth, is like when tech came into advertising, banks came into advertising, right? So it was corrupted right at the beginning. And that just the nature of in media business, you could start a media business from nothing, right? We didn't have big investments. There weren't many venture capital media companies. And then tech comes along all based on venture capital, and you get this fucking tsunami of bullshit because the tech has to be built before it's used, right? Before it's sold. So people have to hype it all the time. So the whole time tech has been in advertising, it's been it's been like suspended in jello, and the jello is bullshit, and you've always had to pick through it to get out the nuggets of value from it. It's been like that the whole time. I can remember, a little bit before it, but it's just like it's a lot. There's a lot of people who just don't like technology and advertising, and they blame it. But I would say it's not. If it was technology alone, advertising people would have figured it out and did a good job. And if you blame someone, it should be the bankers.
Oh gosh. These poor bankers.
All right.
Real quick from Ali, adding to Patrick's question, what do you see the role of people with media buying and optimization skill set in an agentic future?
Same as always, they should use the tools. We talk to DSP teams all the time. I went to two of them yesterday, two big agency visits and programmatic teams, and we tell them you've always worked with algorithms. Your whole career, you've been working with algorithms, working with these new ones. You call them AI, call them agents. This is what you already do. It's different when they're custom. The technology is more advanced, but to have an attitude of like, oh, if it's a little different and a little more advanced, I'm not going to use it. I'm afraid of it. It's just crazy. The whole job's only 10 years old. You'd think these people would be like, my father was a programmatic bidder and his father was a programmatic bidder, and we didn't use any custom this or that. No, the job's 10 years old. You've been working with algorithms the whole time. And to have a bad attitude toward the new tools is silly, right? Like you should just get past that. Use the new tools, or yeah, you'll be replaced by people who do. Like the job has always been working with technology, using tools to drive better advertising results. It's always been the case that you don't do the things that the machine is good at. Like you never decide individual bids for individual bid requests. You've never done that, and you still never will. The scope of things the machine is better at might get bigger, but they don't have to replace you. Like you shouldn't be making arbitrary decisions about stuff anyway. So use the tools.
I also think there's a thread to pull on here with Zuck's, like,
Oh, yeah,
what
what Zuck
was it?
said.
Yeah, what Zuck said, where he was like, eventually we just want people to be able to say, make us more money. And our system does everything. We're so far away from that. We're so far away. Anyone who uses Performance Max, anyone who buys in Meta, like anyone who's ever run campaigns in Meta knows that when Zuckerberg said that, he might as well have been saying, we are going to build a faster than light travel rocket ship. Like running campaigns in Facebook is there is so much nuance and you have to know what you're doing even when the setting is just like I forget what they call it, like something plus or something like that. It's like a performance max. They have their version of performance max advantage, something or something like that. Even when you use that, there is massive nuance and massive like strategic thinking that goes in as a person who knows how to media buy in Facebook. It is still there. And of course they want to get rid of it. They've always wanted to get rid of it. This is not a new desire. And per our discussion earlier, I'm not sure that I comprehend how agentic buying is going to get rid of it, especially because I know some of the tricks that exist in Facebook to get it to do what you want are something that Facebook would look at if they had an automated system doing it and go, oh my gosh, this is completely unacceptable. So this is to say that we're very far away from pop in a creative magic money machine.
Read Careless
And
People. Everyone read Careless People. Like, you take Zuck a lot less seriously when you know who he really is in this book. This is a guy who plays video games with his friends who have to let him win because he's so insecure and he has no idea they're letting him win. Which lives every episode with stories about Zuck from Careless People and maybe some Sheryl Sandberg. Like, these people are fragile, insecure, unable to deal with other human beings. Advertising is made of human beings. Everything's human relationships, human influence. They don't know anything about it.
yeah.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Dan.
I do think that all this stuff is going to make good ad operations and good media buying people super valuable. Like, as these tools become more sophisticated and as it becomes like more nuanced in how to use them, there are a lot of media buying and ad operations people that are not good. Let's just be honest. Like, that's a thing. Lazy,
Yeah.
like, don't touch their campaigns, set it up, let it sit there for 60 days. That's a thing. And I think that good ad operations people, when they know how to wield the tools, it's going to be a magnifying effect on the value that they can provide. And
Yeah, that reminds me,
flow to
once
them.
when I pitched custom algorithms to a head of a programmatic trading desk, he said, really, we're just trying to paste the campaigns and go home. I was flabbergasted. And when I told that to another agency leader, he was like, that's impressive that they're trying to paste the campaigns.
Oh gosh. The publishers don't like to think about this part. This is one that pubs don't think about. They don't think about what's going on the other side of the dollars, man. Ugh.
All right, I guess we got to wrap it up. Sorry, Allie. Save it for next week.
Oh,
We're
it's just
getting the-
a comment. She's just agreeing that the
Okay.
increased need to provide human oversight and make sure the agents are acting in the advertiser's best interest and not the interest of whoever built the agent. Great point.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it's not like that. Like, the idea of AI is not that you have to constantly steer against a robot that's trying to take you where you don't want to go. That's a grim
Ooh.
future.
Performance max. I hear that all the time.
A self-driving car that's trying to
Buy
take
more YouTube. Buy more YouTube. Like, that's all it does. Performance max button. Buy more YouTube button. Like,
All right, we didn't get no one
thank you,
asked about
guys.
OpenSera. OpenSera, the most mystifying product release of the week. Maybe. We'll have to cover next week if someone asks about it. But
We'll talk about the second part of what Gamera does, and we'll
I'll
talk
cover
about that in the light of OpenSensora.
Okay, that's perfect. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Yo, the crowd is back, the lights are dim, front rows buzzing, it's about